Good morning. As Elizabeth said, I'm not the director, I'm the director of development at the shelter. First of all, I'd like to find out, how many of you have heard of Center for Hope and Safety? Okay. How many of you heard of Shelter Our Sisters? Okay. All right, so again, we were Shelter Our Sisters. We did change our name last year to Center for Hope and Safety, and we had definite reasons for doing that, which I'll explain in a little bit. How many of you heard of domestic violence? Okay. We are the only nonprofit organization in Bergen County serving those who are affected by domestic violence. The state of New Jersey is unique in that every county has a service for that, but that just tells you how bad domestic violence is, that there has to be this type of service in every county. It's our 40th year this year. It's kind of bittersweet for us. We're happy that for 40 years we've been able to help women and children through this cycle of violence. That as an agency we have sustained ourselves and we have grown, but it's sad that we still have to be in business. We always say we are one business that would like to be out of business, but unfortunately we're not. When I say domestic violence to you, what comes to your mind? Anybody? Well, if I say domestic violence, what is that? What comes to your mind?
A husband abusing a wife.
Husband abusing a wife.
Yes, a woman abusing
A wife abusing.
Okay, a wife abusing a husband. Anybody else?
Abuse of your children.
Abuse of children. Okay, how many of you think of the abuse as being physical? Okay. That's what most people think about domestic violence. Unfortunately, on TV, that's what we see. We get to see the third stage of domestic violence, the physical part, where you get to see the black eye, the broken ribs, the teeth, and everything else. And most of the time when you see it in one culture, one nationality, one socioeconomic group. And that's not true, okay? Again, we're the agency for Bergen County. We support the women and children and men of Bergen County. It occurs in every single town in Bergen County. And how do we know that? We have a hotline. We have a 24-hour hotline that operates 365 days a year. In order to get some of our funding from the government, we have to track where the person's calling from. We don't ask them their name or anything else, but would you please just tell us what town you're calling from? We can show you statistically that we get phone calls from every single town in Bergen County. If you go to the police department, the one thing the police do not report in the newspapers is domestic violence calls because of confidentiality. But if you go to the police department and ask them for a report of domestic violence calls that they go out on, you will see it's in every single town in Bergen County. So what I'm trying to say to you is that domestic violence doesn't have anything to do with your age, your sex, what religion you belong to, what your background is, what your culture is, what age you are. It affects everybody.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, absolutely,
But
please.
what percentage is it male on female as opposed to female on male? I mean, maybe I just don't understand, but I would think it's much more of the male on female.
Predominantly, it is abuse against women. However, we are now starting to get phone calls from men who are being abused. And I'll go back to explaining why we're seeing a lot more of that. Obviously, part of it has to do with the male, way we're brought up as males are brought up in terms of, you're supposed to be strong and powerful and, not the weaker one. But yes, predominantly it is still, domestic violence is still abuse against women, okay? As I said to you, the physical part is the third stage of domestic violence. Okay? The first stage is verbal abuse. And it starts verbal. It starts out very slowly, kind of nonchalantly, in the sense that, this happens to be her favorite color, and I'm the husband, I'm the partner, I'm the aunt, I'm the uncle, I'm the grandmother, whatever. And so you're wearing that blue again. It doesn't look that great on you. You really should think about another color. Okay? You think, okay, this person cares about me. They're letting me know that I don't look good in that color. Your hair, you cut your hair. I don't, that style's not that great on you.
That's me.
Well, that's verbal abuse, okay? It starts out, and Elizabeth knows I like her hairstyle, but anyway. It starts out slowly, and if you think about it, it's like a slow drip, okay? It's a slow brainwashing. It's little things about, gee, that couch you picked up, it really doesn't do anything for me. It's just constant nitpicking, okay? It then eventually goes into what we refer to as emotional abuse. And there's definitely a pattern, folks, okay? The thing that's indefinite is how long is each of these patterns. In every situation it varies, but there's a definite pattern. It then goes to emotional abuse in terms of no signs of affection, being ignored, telling you you're stupid. That's a very common thing for an abuser to say. Okay, but at this point also, the emotional abuse has to do with going to your parents' house again. Your sister really drives me crazy. She just kind of ignores me all the time, doesn't talk to me. I really hate going there. You know what, I'm gonna stay home this time. And then eventually, why are you going there? It's really not nice that you're going and I'm having to stay home. I think we both should stay home. Eventually, an abusive person takes control. That's the emotional abuse. Separating you from your family, separating you from your friends, even down to the point of, call me when you get to work, call me when you go out for lunch, call me when you get back for lunch, call me when you're leaving for work. You're at the store, how much did you spend? Did you spend over the $50 I gave you? Why did you spend that much? Why did you buy extra things? I told you only to spend $50. Okay? It doesn't matter how intelligent you are. There's many people who have been abused who are extremely intelligent. Has nothing to do with that. Because again, it's very slow. It's a brainwashing. You think about on a week, to see them 1 week or every other week, eventually it's gonna be the children who are gonna be abused, okay? So again, our service is a shelter, so women and children come into the shelter. Obviously, we have counseling going on with them. We come up, the very first thing we do with them is we have a safety plan with them. So in case they do go back, that they now have a plan, plan in place for their safety, for them and for their children.
What's
Okay?
the ultimate game, though? How long do they stay at this facility before they're, I don't know what the word is, before they can go forward, if they're leaving those
Mhm.
things? Do you have a time?
So basically, anyone can stay in our shelter up to 3 months, but we never kick anybody out, okay? And typically what happens, again, some people come to the shelter, this is a, place to come to and then move on, because maybe they can move with friends in another state or family or whatever, but they need to do that break type of thing. And of course, if they're going to another state or another county, whatever, we help them with that, okay? And for others, no, they've separated. Obviously, I mean, the first thing you always hear is, oh my God, he cut off my credit cards even, okay? They have no money. A lot of them have come with just the clothes on their back. We pick them up, I mean, I've picked up women and their children, at a CVS, like at, 1 o'clock in the morning, okay? Because something has happened at their house and they've had it. They realize they've got to get out. So, again, although we have this 3 month, we have a plan for them, okay? So when they come in for their counseling and everything, that's being done with the mom, counseling is being done with the child as well. We have a legal advocate who helps them with court, going to court, getting restraining orders, doing whatever they have to do to help them to get, take away the visitation rights if possible. We have a counselor called a project self-sufficiency counselor who sits down and says, okay, look, he's cutting you off from all the money, and until there's a divorce or we can get to that stage, we have to come up with a plan of how you're going to exist. Okay, so for some of them have never worked, or some of them have been out of work, some of them don't speak English, some of them never graduated high school, so we take care of all those plans for them. We get them ESL, we get them with their GED. We have volunteers who come in and tutor them and help them with these things. They say, you know what, I want to become a medical assistant. Fine, we'll get them into Bergen Community College or some training program. Some of them dropped out of college and they want to finish their education. Fine, we'll help them apply for colleges, help them with scholarships, help them find funding, or they come to me and say, Jean, you go out and raise some funds for some books and things, okay? So we come up with a plan, and then the other thing we do is we help them find housing so that they don't go back to the abuser. We're there, arm in arm with them, arms around them, hugging them and saying, come on, let's move forward, encouraging them, but again, we don't, if they choose to go back, we don't hold them, that's their choice. We just let them know we have an open door policy. Yes?
Just had a quick question, just
Sure.
in the interest of time. A lot of us said that we knew Shelter Our Sisters. You said it's not the same anymore. Could you explain that?
Right, so again, we started, 40 years ago, we were just a shelter, and then we started a hotline, okay? And our name was Shelter Our Sisters. But again, we've grown. We're no longer just a shelter. We now have all these services. In addition to having an emergency shelter, the other part of our plan is we have 5 transitional homes throughout Bergen County, which houses another 40 women and children. So let's say we get somebody into college. Okay, well, they're not gonna be earning any money, possibly, until they graduate, or maybe they have a part-time job and are going to school, but they can't afford, especially in Bergen County, they can't afford housing in Bergen County. So we move them into a transitional home. At a transitional home, they can stay in there for up to 2 years. But again, there's been situations where, they have to stay a little bit longer. Typically, most of them in our transitional homes are only there for 18 months. Okay, because again, we help them find housing and everything. Going back to the children, and I'm gonna answer your question in a minute. Again, we saw that the way to break this cycle of violence is through children, because we don't want these children growing up to be abusive. So we were part of a study that was done. It's an art and music therapy program for children who've been exposed to domestic violence for ages 4 to 12. Now, if you think about a 4-year-old who has seen a mother being raped, beaten, everything, how can a 4-year-old verbalize what they heard and saw, okay? But it's been proven now through art or through music, the child can work it out, drawing pictures, acting it out, and so forth. So luckily, we were part of the test. The test proved to be effective, so we do have a program. We call our program Project Child. And the children who come to Project Child are not from our shelter, although they might be, but most of the children from Project Child are children who are referred to us by what was DIFAS, now called DCP&P, or from school districts, because they see these kids who are bullies, and they say they know exactly where they're going with this and everything. So they're brought in to our Project Child program. It's a 1-year therapy program, 6 months of individual counseling, approximately, and 6 months of group counseling. Again, you know, we're not strict like, boom, we're cutting you off like that. So, and we also, one other thing we realized is everybody who calls our hotline doesn't always need the shelter. They need all our other services. They need the counseling, they need the legal help, they're not gonna have any money. They need to find a place to live, but they have family, friends, or whatever to go and stay. So we realized that, so we started what we call an outreach program. So we have counselors who do that, and we also were getting phone calls from elderly people who are being abused by their children, being cut off, not getting their meds, not getting groceries, not being fed, not being taken to doctor's appointments and everything. So we also have a elderly abuse and follow-up, because anybody who's ever been a client of ours can come back at any time for whatever reason. So again, we've grown and grown and grown and grown, and last year we purchased a building in Rochelle Park, and we moved our Project Child program there, we moved our outreach program there, we took the transitional housing counselors out of the shelter because we were getting crowded there, we moved them into this building. We called this our community center. We were able to give out this address, and we said, you know what, we're not just a shelter anymore, okay? We've grown. We need to let the community know that we've grown. And Shelter Our Sisters, first of all, a lot of people thought we were just a homeless shelter, but frankly, it's been proven that women who are being abused, if they don't get help, they end up homeless. Okay, so